Hey ambitious dentist, welcome to Start Your Dental Practice, the show for existing and aspiring dentists to take your dental practice to the highest possible level. I'm your host, Jonathan Van Horn, CPA and ABV, founder of dentistmetrics.com. In every episode, we aim to demystify the how to start a dental practice problem by bringing on world-class dentists, influencers, and consultants in the dental industry to pick their brain about how to get past the barriers involved from going from no practice to being a practice owner to owning your own successful dental practice.
Hey guys, I'm actually recording this from my in-laws' spare bedroom. I'm here for Christmas break. I've got my mobile command center here going on, getting some work done, but I just thought I'd jump in and do today's intro over my phone. This will be a little bit different than usual. So today's guest features Dr. Leonard Tau. Dr. Tao is the person for online reviews. He's really good about understanding what happens whenever you put yourself online. You're going to learn more about his methods in just a minute. But first, here are a few things you're going to hear about today. We're going to learn how to get 40 to 60 new patients to your practice. That's without taking insurances, charging really low fees, or just like going out and strumming up just tons of business. You're going to learn about what happens in an online conversion. That's for PPC, pay-per-click, and ads, how to get reviews, how to get your patients to leave you a positive and honest review. You're going to learn why reputation management is the wrong way to approach reviews for your business. You're going to learn about the buying cycle that takes place when a potential client looks for you and how to avoid being invisible online. You're also going to learn why most SEO experts are ruining your reputation online and why you typically don't want to pay these people a single cent if you can help it. We're going to learn the only question you should ever ask right after your patient has gotten out of the chair and approached the front desk after their appointment. You're going to want to learn the word you want to avoid when you do ask for these reviews. And you're also going to learn the word that you should be using instead. Then at the end of this episode, Dr. Tao has a great takeaway bonus for you to help implement his advice to get more patient reviews each month. So be sure to listen all the way through this entire interview to get access to that. Now, here's my interview with Dr. Tao.
Hello, ambitious dentists. Today I have with us Dr. Leonard Tau. Dr. Tau is a widely known expert in reputation marketing for dentists. So much so that he's experienced firsthand how to build a practice up, achieve 100% growth. If you look at his dental practices on social review sites, you'll see a ton of positive reviews from Google. I think I just checked, he has over 150 Google reviews, which has to be a really, really strong marketing arm for his personal practice. And he also speaks around the country as an acclaimed speaker about how to build reputation marketing online, as well as I'm sure just in general. So Dr. Tao, thank you so much for coming on.
Well, I appreciate you having me, Jonathan. Thanks very much.
So tell us a little bit about your storyline. Tell us about how you got started in dentistry and how you got turned onto reputation marketing for dentists.
That's a great place to start. Back in March of 2007, I was fortunate enough to purchase a practice from a dentist who unfortunately had passed away. And he was an incredible marketer. Everybody knew who he was in Philadelphia, where I practice. And that was one of the reasons why I wanted to purchase his type of practice, was because it was fee for service. He had a good patient base, doing a lot of high-end dentistry. It was like the perfect fit for me. But he was an expert marketer, like I said, and coming from an associateship in the suburbs, who didn't have a website, didn't have anything back in 2007 at all. I had no marketing background, and I knew that in order to maintain and even grow bigger than he was, I needed to learn how to market my practice. And that's where the internet came in. And over the years I was working in the office, I picked the right avenues online to try. And one of them very early was reputation. And, people always ask for, referrals from their patients. That wasn't as comfortable for me as doing other things. And I would always say, go online and tell your friends and family about me online. And very early in the grand scheme of things, I had generated some reviews online, and people started mentioning when they came in, hey, I read your reviews online, and that kind of light bulb went off. And I was like, this is something that nobody's doing yet. If I start doing this early enough, I'm going to be way ahead of the game, and I'll probably get more patients from it. And, lo and behold, 8 years later, I'm in my practice almost 9 years now. 8 years later, I mean, it's tried and true. I mean, I'm a fee-for-service practice. I don't take any insurance. I do obviously submit paperwork for the patient. I do take assignment of benefit. I don't have any network contracts. I'm not stuck in charging, minimal fees for procedures. I get between 40 and 60 new patients a month in my practice. And most of them who come from me that are not referred by other patients are referred by the internet. And specifically when I ask them when they come in, how they found me, they all say, well, you had the best reviews of anybody in the area. And one of the big things that Google uses for ranking nowadays is the number of reviews that you have. Among other, there's about 200 different algorithms that they use, or 200 different standards they look for. But one of the bigger ones is reviews. And, I have about 1,500 reviews online overall. I know you mentioned I think there are about 152 on Google now, some of which are negative. So, I mean, I think that's a big thing, is negative reviews, which we can certainly talk about. I'm certainly not a perfect person or dentist in general. But those reviews have springboarded my practice to the top of Google, to in front of the patients, and people read them and they trust them, and they come in and they come in and spend their money. And that's realistically how it's developed over the last 8 years of my solo practice career. In so much that I help dentists around the country with reputation. We have about 700 dentists who are using a software program that I helped develop. And so it's been a really fun transition for me from solo practice, direct patient care, to now helping dentists around the country get better reviews.
And it's a big problem. I see it all the time because, I am a child of the internet age. I've been on a computer since I was probably 6 or 7 years old, playing PC games and just being a part of that, living in front of a computer the entire time. We've came a long way, but whenever I'm looking up like a client's email or a client's phone number or a client's address to send them something, I use Google. And so I see these guys' websites all the time. And from a person who is not able to, I couldn't design myself out of a hat. But I do, I do figure I do get frustrated whenever I'm specifically typing in somebody's name and I can't find their website, or I'm typing in their practice's name and I can't find their website. And then whenever I do see it, I'll see one Google review, and it's a negative review from 6 years ago. It's amazing to me how often that happens. So let's talk about just the review in general, and talk about what happens whenever someone looks up a service provider that they're going to be using. You said you had 40 to 60 new patients a month that are in a fee-for-service / out-of-network practice, which is really good, considering that's all inbound coming in from. When I say inbound, that means that you're not doing a lot of going out and trying to find these people. They're coming in and trying to find you, which is a heck of a lot easier of a marketing campaign to do than having to send out $4,000 or $5,000 in direct mail pieces every month, spending $4,000 or $5,000 to $2,000 to $5,000 in pay-per-click advertising, whether it be Facebook or Twitter or Google or whomever. So it's very, very valuable to be able to do that. So talk to me about the mindset of a review. Why is it important that people get those reviews?
Well, just to go back for a second, you had mentioned direct mail and those types of things. I never did traditional marketing. I had one Yellow Pages ad when I started in 2007. It was a complete waste of money. I stopped right after that. And I did most of my stuff online. I did some branding and some magazines, but I went really directly to the online marketing campaigns. And you mentioned pay-per-click, which I do some. There's SEO obviously on your website. There's reviews. You need to have a diverse marketing campaign. But in my opinion, if you don't have the reviews to back up, or the reputation to back everything up, you're still not going to get the conversions that you would expect from those campaigns. So someone spending $2,000 to $3,000 a month on pay-per-click advertising, what do you think they do when they actually do a search? Let's say it's, you know, Philadelphia Invisalign dentist, and I'm up there on the top of the search engines. They're going to go right to my website or wherever I'm directing them to. But they're just not going to call the office anymore. They're actually going to go online. They're going to look my name up, and they're going to read what other people are saying about you. And the same thing happens nowadays with referrals. You know, in the past, my dad's a dentist. My dad started his practice in 1970. Been practicing, you know, almost 45 years. And when he was in practice, when he first started off, you know, they had no choice. They just called. You know, who's your dentist? So call Dr. Tao, and they called the number and they made the appointment. And even with specialists, that used to happen. It doesn't happen that way anymore. Now you say, you know, who's your dentist? Well, my dentist is Dr. Leonard Tau in Philadelphia. They're going to look me up before they come in, and they're going to see what other people are saying about you. So reviews have kind of overtaken everything that we do nowadays. I mean, everywhere you turn, there's a new review somewhere, not just about your business, but about anything. You know, when there's a movie, you know, it started with thumbs up and thumbs down with Siskel and Ebert. And now there's, you know, long novels about the whole movie experience. You know, when you go to a restaurant, they ask you to leave a review. When you go to any brick and mortar store, there's always reviews about them online. So this is not a fad. It's not going away. We are a review-driven society, and if dentists in general aren't making it a priority to ask their happy patients for feedback, I call it, and we can talk about that a little later about feedback versus review, but asking their happy patients for feedback, you know, they're going to struggle. It has to be asked for, because patients will not go out of their way to do a positive review unless you ask them, and they're more likely to do a negative review on their own if they have a bad experience. So, you know, I mentioned negative reviews. I do have them. They're unavoidable, in my opinion, if you're a dentist. But I also don't think that every practice should have a 5-star review. And you'll look at my reviews up online. I think I have 4.7 stars on Google. But I'd rather have a 4.7 stars than 5.0 stars, because it makes the other reviews look real. When you have negative reviews, it makes everything else look more positive, in my opinion. So review generation, or the whole review reputation marketing, and I like to refer to it as reputation marketing rather than reputation management, because reputation management, in my opinion, is having companies go on there and worry about things that appear on the first page of Google and trying to have them remove those or push them further down the page. Because as you know, most people don't ever click on page 2 anyway. You know, the big joke out there is where's the best place to hide a dead body? It's page 2 of Google search results. Nobody goes there. So, you know, reputation management is not something I believe in. I believe in reputation marketing, which is using the power of your happy patients and getting them to talk about you online on all the social media channels. And that's going to help generate new patients by getting those reviews on the sites that matter. And in my opinion, the sites that matter are Google, Facebook, and Yelp. And I know I'm not really, you know, I know where you're asking me as an expert, you know, questions. I'm going to ask you a question. Why do you think those are the 3 most important sites?
Because they're the most trafficked.
And that's definitely one of the answers, okay? But there's even one more important than that.
Because people are more familiar with them?
That's another right answer. But we have one other thing that you haven't mentioned yet.
Is it that they, because of those other factors, they're the ones that influence your website ranking the most?
And yes, kind of, but when someone searches for your name after they find you, you know, so I'll get to this point first and go back a second, but they're going to look, once they hear about you, they're going to look you up. Google, Facebook, and Yelp are normally the first 3 sites that come up on most Google search results if the practice is set up properly. They're literally, they have the most trust with Google, and they're going to be ranked the highest. And they're the first 3 things that you're going to see when someone searches for your business. And if you don't have any reviews, you don't have good reviews on those first 3 sites, that's going to negatively affect the opportunity to have them call the office and make an appointment. So that's the reason why Google, Facebook, and Yelp, in my opinion, are the most important. Now, there are other ones like Health Grades, the City Search, and Insider Pages, and Judy's Book, and all these other sites that are secondary. But Google, Facebook, and Yelp are definitely the most important ones to get reviews on, because that's the first thing people see. So the buying cycle nowadays is mostly everything that's searched for is a location-based search. So there's something called SOLO-MO, social, local, and mobile.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to be focusing about the local aspect here because people are doing local searches. So what happens is someone looks in, let's say, are you in Little Rock, you said?
Correct.
So we'll take your ad. So Little Rock cosmetic dentist. When someone does that search, you're going to see usually the ads appear at the top. So whoever's paying will be at the top there. Below that's going to be now a map of 3 dentists. It used to be 7. And then in August of this year, Google changed to 3. It used to be called the local 7-pack. Now it's called the stack pack. And there's 3 people on there, 3 dentists on there. And then below that's the organic rankings. So the map is where they're going to show the reviews. They're going to show the address and the phone number and a map of where you're located. And the website, there's a link to your website, there's directions, there's a couple other things that are in there. And you got to stand out there. And if you're not there, they're not going to find you. They're not going to, because that's the first thing that has the most information about your business in that snack pack. So once they find you and see the reviews, then they're going to search for you and look at everything else about you. That's the buying cycle. Then they may either choose your office or say, they're too far from me, or they don't have good reviews, or I don't like what's being said about them online, and they're going to move to the next person and down the list that way. So that's the focus of my attention when it comes to, helping dentists, is making sure that they get on the top of that ranking pack, because without that, in my opinion, you're invisible online, and being invisible is not good nowadays.
Absolutely. And also another thing I find is there's a lot of confusion if you don't have things set up correctly. Like we were talking beforehand, we have I had a client that I was looking up I have 2 stories about clients that had issues. One, they when I looked up their website, it had right underneath their name of their website of their practice. When I looked it up, it said, "This site may be hacked. You probably don't want to click on it." And that was Google telling that website that doing that. You're not going to get anybody to click on your website. They think they're going to get a virus, number one. And then I have another client that I was looking up their Google reviews while we were talking. I said that they had 10, but what I was looking at said they only had 1, because I was looking up the practice name. And then I typed in the practice owner's name, and his name has 10 Google reviews, but his practice has 1 review. So there's confusion of where the reviews are coming in for.
So that's a very good point you make. So, I definitely want to talk about that as well, because that's a very big misconception out there about Google Places and how many you want. So I'm continue. I started to interrupt you there. So
no. So whenever you said that, you mentioned about the Philadelphia Invisalign dentist or something like that. But yeah, I said Philadelphia Invisalign dentist. I actually Googled that so that I could have some type of a context for our discussion. And, there are, right at the top, there's 3 different ads at the top for PhillyDentalSpa.com, Dentistry at Auburn Square, or at suburbansquare.com, lionsfamilydentistry.com/Invisalign. And then right underneath that, the first non-paid ad is pcde.com, which is your website. And then what I did for that is I looked up how much those people are paying for every click that they're getting for that ad. And for everybody that clicks on those ads, for example, Philly Dental Spa, I'm going to cost them some money right now by clicking on that to see what's going on. I click on that, and amazingly enough, this is real time. I didn't do this beforehand. I click on that. According to Keyword Ad Planner, Google AdWords, they're paying about somewhere between $7 and $10 for me to have just clicked on that. And guess what I'm looking at right now? Do you have a good response, or what is the absolute worst thing that I could be seeing right now whenever I click on that ad? It is an error 404.
Oh, so they're really. That's not good at all.
Yeah, it's literally, I'm looking at a blank web page that says error 404. So they just paid $10 for me to be able to see a page that says, "Oops, we don't have a site here to show you right now."
Wow.
So
that's not good.
So that is just a testament to this, how important this internet stuff can be. It can be really expensive if not done correctly. And so you need to go talk to Dr. Paul Burson and Dr. Harold.
Dr. Jaffe and Burson.
Jeff, yeah, and let them know that they're burning money right now.
Yeah, I will. They know. I know them, so I'll definitely let them know. You know, I mean, being a Philadelphia guy, I'm very well known here, obviously, because people know me as the marketing guy. So, but I'm also the guy who will help anybody out, and that's kind of burned me a little bit, because I started off doing speaking engagements in Philadelphia, and I taught all my competition about what to do. And so that's kind of, now, 7 or 8 years later, or actually 5 years later, because I started speaking in 2010, some of them are finally catching up to me. One of my good buddies you mentioned, Dentistry at Suburban Square, he's got that second up there. He's a good friend of mine too. So a lot of colleagues and friends of mine are doing well because of the help that I've given them. But back to what you were saying before about the Google Plus pages or Google listings. Google separated Google Plus recently, so I don't even know what they call it now, but it's Google My Business, really what it's called. So
it's really confusing.
It's very confusing. Very confusing.
It took literally so people that are watching this on YouTube, for me to get this onto YouTube and have it added on to be able to download onto YouTube and stuff like that, it took me 3 days to figure out how to connect my Google page to my YouTube page, because it was so convoluted of what user ID I was in, and then that was connected to my Dentist Metrics local site. It's insanity. I would if I had to go back in time, I'd have just paid somebody to do it for me.
They confuse people more than they help a lot of times, and because of that, Google, you may be confused with Google, but the big thing you don't want is you don't want Google to be confused about who you are and your identity. Because the last thing that you want is to have 2 Google pages. One, you mentioned your client had 10 on one and 1 on the other. That's not good. And because, you don't know what people are going to type in. So my practice name is Pennsylvania Center for Dental Excellence. But because of what we've done, when someone types that in or my name in, the same listing comes up. So you want to only have 1 Google listing, because you have 1 Google listing, Google knows to trust that listing. Now, the other big factor other than reviews in ranking is what we call citations. And that's where your Google listing comes into play, because you want to have citations, which are basically listings or mention of your business on a website without necessarily having a link to your website on there. But the problem is they're spawning themselves with incorrect information, a lot of them. But Google uses these citations as a big trust factor. So the premise behind this is you want to have a lot of reviews to gain patients' trust or potential patients' trusts. You also want to have consistent citations, so you have Google's trust as well. And then also with high reviews, Google will trust you even more. And that's how you get ranked on the rankings in your local area, is a combination of citations and reviews. So there could be a dentist with 60-something reviews on Google in a small town, but not rank because the citations are messed up. So it's a game you have to play, and you need a lot of reviews and you need consistent citations, name, address, and phone number. You must have the consistent name. So is it your practice name that you want to go by, or is it your name? Is the address right? Is it suite or STE? Is it the and sign, or is it incorporated? You need to make sure these listings are consistent from top to bottom in order to reap the benefits of having a ton of Google reviews.
Makes a lot of sense. And if you're ever going to sell that practice, just for people listening out there, it makes a lot more sense to me to use the practice's name than the owner's name, because if you ever leave, if in 20 years, if you're planning to sell this practice, I have a feeling that this will be a part of what people look at in 20 years.
That's a really good point. I mean, with the dentists I work with around the country, we have a lot of them who are closer to retirement, and they are in the process of changing their name from their name or something with their name in it to something that's not name related. So if they leave, the reviews still stay with the practice. So mine is the Pennsylvania Center for Dental Excellence. Now, I've had some discussions about selling my practice to focus on some other things. I'm not doing that at this point, and not for many years from here probably. But even when I had my practice evaluated for, appraised, my practice was worth about 20% more because I had all these reviews online. Mm-hmm. So that's a big thing to consider as well as you're approaching the retirement ages, changing the name to a more, your town, Little Rock Dental Arts or something, rather than, Dr. John Smith. There's a big difference there. And then also, as you start getting more reviews onto the internet, in my opinion, that increases the value of your practice as well, because the person taking over comes in and they have that same reputation. I think that's a really important point.
Bill Gates has a really famous quote of saying that we always overestimate the amount of change that's going to occur in the next 2 years, and we always underestimate the amount of change that will occur in the next 10 years. And the reason I bring that point up is because in 10 years from now, how do you think it's already the majority of people go online to be able to find this information. A lot of people still do, use the referrals from a friend or something like that. But in 10 years from now, how do you think the average person is going to be finding a service provider? And I can guarantee you the internet is going to be even more of an affecting factor in the future. So in just 10 years, if you think about 10 years, if you think of a professional career, if you come into this career in your late 20s or maybe your early 30s being a practice owner, if you think of a 10-year chunk, you might have 3 or 4 of those in your professional career, depending on how much you like working, right? So really, you got to get these things set up today to be able to affect that down the road. It's just, to me, that's just as much of an investment as, like a retirement plan is, because it is so much harder to catch up to somebody than it is to be the first one out the gate. Is that what you find?
100%. Yeah, it's very difficult for people to catch up. Be the innovator, not have to adapt to the changes that are being made. In 10 years, I think this is going to be even more important as review. I think we're a review-based society, and if you don't do it now or don't plan to do it now, I think it's something that you're going to really fall behind the 8 ball and not be able to catch up at all.
The psychology now, because and I want people out there that really think about this. If you're kind of like, if we're being a little technical and things like that, think about it in this regard. Think about how many times you've been in a different town and you've looked for a restaurant. You said, burgers near me or something like that. And then think about all of the little popping listings that come up. You may not realize it, but if you think back to it, your mental bias will likely go to one of 2 places in my mind. It'll either go to the first thing you see, unless that first thing you see has a lower review. And then you will almost subconsciously skip that if the one below that has a 5-star, to a certain degree, I would assume.
And I agree 100%. That's why, I have clients who say, I'm ranked 3rd on the list. Why am I not 1st? I said, don't worry about it. If you're on the maps and you have more reviews than everybody else, that's going to be the thing that attracts someone to your listing, is that star rating with all these reviews. That's the key to this entire plan, in my opinion. Ranking, but you have to rank also. So there's a lot of other factors involved. So I know that you work with a lot of newer dentists, so, even for startups, this is important. Right out of the gate we're focused on the reviews rather than doing other things. Because if you look at a graph, and it's one of my main slides, I repeat it like 3 times in my seminars, is that if you have all these advertising you're doing, social media, paid advertising, search engine optimization, and you have no reputation, you're not going to be able to get these conversions. And when it comes to like SEO, take SEO for an example.
Real quick before we get into SEO, let's describe what a conversion is, because we've used that word a lot, and I don't think we actually define that. So tell us what a conversion is.
Well, in my opinion, if you get a lead or a call or an email to your office, we call that a lead, obviously. Converting that would be having the patient come in and become a patient, or at least have them come in the door, have a consultation. Look, I always say I can bring people to your phone or your door all the time, but what happens in the office is up to you. I don't control that part of people's practice. So, if I have the opportunity to bring someone in and show them how we stand out from our competition, that's my conversion. In my opinion, if I bring them in and I screw that up, not my fault. It's not the person referring the lead to me. It's my fault for not converting them. So a conversion, in my opinion, is someone coming into the office, making an appointment because of what I'm doing online. That's really what a conversion is.
Okay. So let's go back to your SEO point.
No. So my point is that, a lot of people say, well, I'm doing SEO, and I think SEO is important, depending on what town you're in. But, a good SEO company is going to charge you probably between $500 and $600 for an SEO campaign on a monthly basis. And they can't guarantee you getting on page one anymore. If they do, please run. That's not good if they guarantee it, because they're not going to be able to get you on page one.
And if they do, here's what's going to happen. You're going to lose that page one ranking in probably the next 6 to 8 months whenever they do a Google algorithm change, because what they're doing is they're doing something that's probably negatively affecting your website that you may not even realize. They're sending out what they're doing, like you said, for citations. What they're probably doing is they're going onto these aggregate sites and they're creating these spammy links that point back to you, that game Google's algorithm most of the time.
And when they change it, goodbye.
Yeah, when they change it, you're going to have to literally create a whole new website and maybe do like a 301 redirect.
Start over from scratch again, and that's not what you want to do.
Yeah, and so that very good point. So,
excuse me. So when you're doing SEO, here's an example of a client. I mean, he called me up and he said, I've been doing this a year and I'm on page 2 still. Thus, in my opinion, if you're on page 2 still, you've gotten no patience from SEO. Okay. So he told me he spent $6,000 and he's gotten no patience. So he started using, our software Bird Eye, and in 3 months, he spent $1,000 basically. He was on page 1 of the maps with 62 Google reviews, and he started rolling in the patients because of those reviews. So that's how quickly the difference is when it comes to SEO versus focusing on getting reviews. That's a huge, huge difference there.
So walk me through how to number one, how to spot a patient that's had a good experience. I'm sorry, I just hit my microphone. Spot a patient that has a good experience, and then how to get them to leave you a review.
Okay. So, we all as dentists or team members should be aware of the experience the patient's having in the office. So I do a lot of in-office consulting with dentists and teams. And one of the first questions I ask when I get there is, tell me the flow of your office, teach me the flow. And I asked them, so when someone leaves the dentist chair and comes up to the front desk, what is the first thing that you should ask the patient? And I'll ask you the same thing. What do you think is the first thing you should ask the patient when they come to the front desk, John?
If it were me, with no other knowledge of the situation, I'd probably say to ask them to affirm something that had been done in the back.
So I've gotten some strange answers all the way from, how do you want to pay today? Or, it's this much money. You should ask them, how was your visit today? That's the question that you should have. How was your visit today? And you're either going to have a positive in most cases or sometimes a negative. So those positive patients, you should ask them, whether you're using a software program like mine or not, you want to ask them if they had a positive experience to provide some feedback about that experience.
So the bubbly woman that's smiling and says, "Oh yeah, I love it here," yada yada yada, versus that's a good target versus someone who, like me, would probably be like, "Went to the dentist."
Correct, exactly. So the old way to get reviews on the sites that matter were, you would talk to the patient and say to them, Mary, would you go home and do a Google review for me? Okay, what does Mary say to that?
Sure.
And what happens?
Life gets in the way.
Great, cool. So at my seminar, I say life happens. Life happens. They don't do it. The other way that you can do is hand them a card that says, go home and do a Google review for us. Again, life happens, okay? And then there's many dentists out there, thousands of dentists who use programs like Demand Force and Lighthouse and Solution Reach and RevenueWell, programs that I am a big believer in. I like those programs. Those programs are patient communication software programs, okay, which happen to do reputation. Reputation is one small thing that they do among a lot of different things. They do patient confirmations. They do recare acknowledgments. They do, other types of communications. And they also happen to send emails out to patients asking them for reviews, okay? The problem with those sites, and they get a ton of reviews, is that they don't go to the sites that matter. And I think you and I are in our pre-conference call, talked about how one of your clients has a couple hundred RevenueWell reviews, and I think he had like 3 or 4 or 5 Google reviews. And that's what we see standardly in the industry, is that they don't get reviews on the sites that matter. And that's a very big deal, because when I'm at my trade shows talking to dentists and I stop them as they're walking by, what do you use for for reviews or to generate reviews, they go, well, I have Lighthouse. Now I love Lighthouse. Let me state that I'm a big Lighthouse fan. I have Lighthouse in my office, but it's a great communication software program, but the reviews go to Rate a Business, and nobody knows what Rate a Business is. Nobody really cares what Rate a Business says. There's no credibility there.
Personally, whenever I see one of those sites, if let's say I'm pretty familiar with the dental ones, but let's say that I looked up a repairman and I see repairguys.com, they've got 350 reviews on there. My immediate thought is those are all fake. Every one of those is fake. They paid somebody to do that.
Right. Well, and I don't want to say they're fake. They may be legitimate, but they're obviously being generated by the office. They're obviously not. It's not more public sites like the Yelp, Google, and Facebook.
Sure. Well, I'm just a natural pessimist. So
right. No, I think having negative reviews that's the reason it's good.
Yeah.
So I want to make it clear that I love those programs for a different purpose.
Sure.
And I have clients of mine, who have 2,000 demand force reviews and they have 3 on Google.
Yeah.
That's not what you want. And then they go, well, I have the reviews on my website and my Facebook page as well. Now, what's the problem with having the reviews on your website and your Facebook page?
What are people doing with it? I had another client that we had that same discussion just a month ago. He was getting these things on a different site. He's like, I've got all these really good people leaving me reviews. And I went and looked at them. They were fantastic, just glowing reviews. And they were like hidden in this like really far reaches of his website. You could not find that page going to his website. You had to be able to find it through the search engine just to be able to find it.
Well, that's the problem. So if they're on your Facebook page, that's great, but they have to find your Facebook page to do that. So the people who are on your Facebook page normally are existing patients. They are not new patients in most cases. Same thing. If you're on your website, they have to find your website first. So if you're not visible on the search engines, nobody's going to your website anyway. So those are not places. Yes, you want to have them on there as extra credibility, but that's not where you need to focus your attention on. And the widgets that they provide you with, which are the way that they show on the website for like Rate a Dentist and Demand Force and Revenue. I don't think that they show in a way that really helps get those patients to convert.
Sure.
So those are the old ways to get reviews. The new ways to get reviews is to use a program like ours, Birdeye. And Birdeye is a reputation marketing software program. And one of the things that we do really well is we get reviews on the sites that matter, specifically on Google, Facebook, and Yelp. So we take the conversation that we just explained. You ask the patient how their visit was. That's definitely the main thing that we want to do, but we want to make it a little bit extended. And the conversation would go something like this. John, you've been a longtime patient of ours. We really appreciate it. I know you've referred many people to us in the past. We would love to get some feedback from you regarding our services. Can I send you a text message that will allow that to happen? And what would you say to that?
I would say, sure, absolutely.
Okay. So 100%, nobody's ever told me no. When I ask, they do it. And I'm very involved with this in my office. I'm somewhat of a micromanager in my office, so I'm very involved. And some dentists don't want to be involved. I think they should, but it's still a conversation that the front desk could have. It's less than a minute long, and you ask that question, and then you would do what's called a check-in in our system, where it's just a bookmarked website where you put the patient's name and their mobile phone number, and within 3 seconds, the patient would get a text message. It's fast. And what I say to them actually is, we would love for you to do this before you leave. It's a new software program we're testing. So we want to make sure it's working properly, because once they leave, they may not do it. But because this is on their phone, on their smartphone in your office, there's not an IP address conflict. You're not duplicating the IP address where the reviews are coming from. So they're doing it on their phone in the office. They would click on the text message and it would open up a browser on their phone, and it would ask them, would you recommend us? Yes, I'd be happy to, and no, but here's why. And that's our filter, because you don't want them directly to go to Google, because you don't want it to be negative on Google if you can avoid it.
Sure.
So when they click on no, and here's why, it actually opens an internal Birdeye page, and it says, we're sorry that your experience wasn't the best. Please tell us how we can improve. And that's an internal review that you receive. Nobody else receives it. Your team receives it. You then can either call the patient, you can email them, you can apologize, say, I'm sorry you had a bad experience, let's try to work this out. what you're hoping for in that case is you're hoping for them not to go on Google and rant and rave.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I can tell you I've got some negatives online, and feel free to look at them. I mean, they're there. Most of the time that prevents them from doing it. But just to bring a real life example into it, I just had a patient come into my office. She wanted to whiten her teeth, and she wasn't the best color for the Zoom procedure. And I recommended another procedure called core, and I'm a big fan of core whitening, and I think it would work great in her, and she didn't want to spend the money. But I forewarned her that she wouldn't get good results. She went ahead and did the Zoom and was unhappy. And she kept on questioning me, why didn't I get whiter? I go, because your color of your teeth was not the right color, and I advised you of that prior to even starting this. Well, she went home and she did a bird eye review, which was negative, saying that she hated the results. Well, then she proceeded to go on Google, Facebook, and Yelp and do the same review. So it didn't stop it from happening there. In most cases, it does. So we want to rule out the negatives. But if they do say, yes, I had a positive experience, depending on the phone that they have, whether it's Android or an iPhone, a number of different things happen. So as you may or may not be aware, or the listeners may or may not be aware, if you have an Android phone, you must have a Google account. And you must be signed into that Google account to have the phone function. So if you're on an Android phone and you get asked that question, would you recommend us, and respond favorably, it takes them right to the office's Google page to do a review. It's easy, it's fast, and it goes right to Google. They don't have another choice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And on an iPhone, we actually ask them what apps they have, whether they have a Google account, whether they have a Facebook account, whether they have a Yelp account. And if those are installed on their phone and they click on Yelp, it will go to Yelp. If they click on Google, it actually goes to the Safari browser, opens up the Google page in Safari, and it goes right to the star ratings where they can do their review. Now, understand this, with an iPhone, some users are not logged in to Google. So then they would have to do their Google, they would have to log into Google at that point. Now, the point of this is you're not going to get a Google review from someone who doesn't have a Google account. That's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so people who think that's going to happen, it's not. So if you're asking people with AOL and Yahoo, more than likely you're not getting a Google review from that. Anyone with an Android, anybody with a Gmail account could do a Google review from their phones in your office. So that's the beauty of our software that allows this to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if they don't have any of those installed, which is common, about 20, believe it or not, there's millions of billions of users who have Facebook, but there's about 20% of the population that don't put it on their smartphone. So for those other 20% that don't have it, it's a positive internal bird eye review, not a negative one. And those reviews will automatically be posted to the business's Facebook page as a review. Okay. It will be posted to the Twitter feed. It will be posted to Google Plus, which we just mentioned doesn't mean that much anymore. It will be posted to our special microsite. And it will also be posted to their website with a widget that we install on their website, which is a lot different than any of the other companies, where we actually show the name of the patient and where the reviews came from. So it will say Google, Yelp, Facebook, Demand Force right on their website, which gives them a lot more credibility because they're coming from multiple sources. So that's kind of the review flow with our software. But the main goal is we want them on the sites that matter. Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely. So tell us about, you said that you shared one success story about how the guy who was on the second page of Google forever. And just so people know, as far as like the numbers, if you aren't from, well, how about you telling me this? Do you have any statistics on how often the first result in Google gets clicked versus the anything below that?
About 42% of the clicks happen from position 1 on Google. And if you're down, I mean, it goes down exponentially from that. And if you're not on the first page at all, it's less than 10%. I mean, less than 1%. I mean, so most of the clicks are happening on page 1, position 1, correct.
So almost half of the people that are looking for services that you provide are going to go to that. They're going to give the first shot at being impressed by that first position.
100% so. Yes. If you're not in those top positions, you're really invisible, in my opinion. You know, and if you can make yourself stand out with all of those great reviews. So I have some clients that have, one client in particular in Dublin, Ohio has 475 Google reviews, and they are dominating the local landscape. I have a client in North Carolina with 180. The dentist that you mentioned on the Google AdWords Dentistry at Suburban Square, he's a client of ours. He's got 140 Google reviews. That's how they generate patients. That's how they're getting patients into their office.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So okay, so to wrap this up, as far as the ways for people to be able to stay on top of this stuff, to be able to make sure that this is all done, to make sure that they can get these reviews. Do you have any type of ways, for like tricks for people to be able to make sure that these reviews are coming in? I understand that the software helps out with a lot of it, but do you have any other tips and tricks for us?
Well, one, you have to ask. So it's not going to happen on your own. So don't be afraid to ask. I would use the word feedback. Don't use the word review or testimonial. So testimonial is Dr. Tao is the best.
Mm-hmm.
Not going to help you online. Consider it spam. It's a one-liner. Not going to help you. So ask for feedback about their experiences online. Big terminology difference. Create some cards. Try it. You're going to see limited success. You cannot give a patient an incentive to do it. That's against the terms and conditions of Google and Yelp. So you can't say, leave a Google review and get a $20 gift card. Can't happen. So what I would do, and one of the best tips with people using our software or not using our software, is incentivize an employee in the office. Take your best employee and say, I know you want to make more money. Instead of a raise, here's what I'm going to say. For every Google review you can generate for us, I'm going to give you $5, $10, $15. Sure. That's well worth the money that you're spending to do that. So that's another big thing, is don't incentivize the patient because you can't. Incentivize the team member to do it. So that's a really big tip I can give them as well. Can
I add to that? Can I add to that one real quick? Because I just had a conversation with a client about that. They said, "Well, we'd love to get more Google reviews, but the person in the front, she can't. We don't know what type of account they have." And I said, "Do you ask for emails?" He's like, "Well, we haven't always, but we do now." I was like, "So if you know what patients are in there, do you think that she could maybe look at their email account and see if it says @gmail.com?"
Yeah, no, gmail.com is definitely a way to be able to get better Google reviews. So you can do a Google review whether you have a Gmail account or an actual Google account. Mm-hmm. You don't necessarily have to have a Gmail address to do that. But yes, that's a great way to look, and look at their phones. I mean, that's the easy way to tell us what phone they have as well.
Yeah, that's a good one too. That's great.
I mean, but the thing is, you have to be on it. You have to look. People have made a focus on asking for referrals. Hey, please tell your friends and family if they're looking for a dentist. Well, you should also ask for a Facebook like, in my opinion. So friends, ask for referrals, for Facebook likes, but also ask for feedback about their experience. I think that's a very important part that not many practices focus on.
Absolutely. So, okay. Well, thank you so much for your time today. You have a little book that you've written about how to get positive reviews online, and you before the show mentioned that you'd like to be able to give that out to the people that are listening, as well as people that may be interested in your software. For everyone out there, you're going to be able to get that through our bonus system. And to do that, all you have to do is text the word practice to 33444, and you'll be able to get that straight into your inbox. So, Dr. Tao, thank you so much for your time today. It's been very enlightening, very good talk. I'm sure we could probably talk about this stuff for another 3 or 4 hours. So it's a super fascinating part of the industry and marketing in general. And guys, if you think that this thing's going away, I think that you're going to be sorely mistaken if you're not diverting at least some of your practices and energy and resources towards this. And as I say a lot of the times on the podcast, if you are going to be diverting energy and time, if there's a software that helps you do that so your actual time doesn't get taken up, it's a really great way to be able to do that. So fantastic, Dr. Tao. Again, thank you. And is there anything else you want to say before we go?
No, if anybody needs to reach out to me, they can go to birdeye.com/dental, and they can have my contact information there as well.
All right. Fantastic. Thanks, guys. And have a great day.
Thanks, Jonathan. I appreciate it.
A huge thanks to Dr. Tao for spending so much time with us today. Now, did this episode get you thinking? And for most people, they hear reputation, they start thinking about the services that help delete bad reviews online. And that's just wrong. So when you use Dr. Tao's teachings, you create a powerful and ethical way to get more patients online. And Dr. Tao didn't want to leave you empty-handed, so if you're excited to implement today's episode in your practice to get more leads with reviews, then you'll want the bonus Dr. Tao created. It's called Strategies to Get Reviews on the Site That Matters. It's great if you're going to take action or if you're going to hand this task to someone in your business who handles the marketing for you. So to get that bonus, simply text practice to 33444. It's practice to 33444, or you can go to startyourdentalpractice.com/bonus if you're outside of the US.
So that's it for today's episode, but that doesn't mean that the learning and implementation have to stop there. I've created a free report called The 15 Numbers That Will Make or Break Your Dental Practice. This report has been downloaded over 1,000 times by dental professionals. So if you want your free copy of this report that's going to outline what the most important numbers are in any dental practice, and it also includes how to look at your numbers, how to set goals, has a whole slew of really important information that is the culmination of all of my experience as a dental CPA, then just go to startyourdentalpractice.com/free gift. That is startyourdentalpractice.com/free gift. And so that's it for today, Ambitious Dentist. Again, I'm Jonathan Van Horn, CPA and ABV. I'll see you next week with another world-class practice owner or consultant that will help you start your very own dental practice. Thank you guys so much for being a part of the Start Your Dental Practice community. If you enjoyed today's episode, please do me a favor and go to startyourdentalpractice.com/iTunes to leave your honest feedback and review on iTunes. It's going to help me create a better experience, a better show, a better podcast for you, the ambitious dentist. Your feedback really does help, regardless if you like the show today or not. If you didn't like the show, let me know, because it's going to help me create a better show and podcast for you. Lastly, if you know of anybody that would benefit from today's episode and today's content, today's guest, please feel free to share with them on social media or through email.